right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody out there. I'm Anthony Ray. Happy New Year and welcome to 2026. All right, everybody. Today we'll be getting started shortly. As we get started, we have many things to cover. Um, First and foremost, we're going to be talking about the H-1B lottery and what's happening with the H-1B lottery coming up and what that means for you, your company, or if you're an H-1B employee, what that means for you. But before we get into that, we're going to be talking about a few other things that are happening in immigration law and things that I wanted to raise as a concern. And also, just to let you know, in a couple weeks, we'll be doing another live stream about H-1B alternatives. Today's probably going to be a little negative and down. However, we always have to deal with reality as to what we can expect for H-1Bs as the H-1B cap season is quickly approaching. So while we wait for more people to get on, remember, this is your time to reach out to us. Every week I get the privilege and opportunity to do immigration consultations and work with existing clients about a plethora of immigration situations and questions that are exciting, that challenge me, and also, the most importantly, it really helps the clients out. So this is your opportunity. If you have questions, go ahead and put those questions in the chat. If we have time, we'll address that. If not, we'll follow up and respond to them afterwards. Feel free to respond if you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We would love to hear from you. Our goal is to help you out, and that's why we do these live streams, so that not only that you get to know who we are, but also to see what we can do to make a difference in your life and the lives of your family and your employees in your company. So one of the things that I would like to touch on before we get started is there's a great article that you must read through Forbes regarding a lot of the immigration reform that's happening. I'm going to encourage you, turn off the clickbait, the news, the newspaper, all of that. Just shut that out and then kind of look at what our immigration policies are really doing to our nation. Essentially, our current administration is isolating us from all immigration. And the actions taken by the administration really just wants to prohibit any immigration. So each of the things we discuss or talk about, whether H-1B or not, each of these steps are getting us closer to where foreign nationals, whether employment-based or family-based or refugee, are not going to be permitted in the United States. And the trend tends to be, if you have money or you're willing to pay money, you will be able to come to the US as an immigrant. If not, we don't want you here, is essentially the direction the administration is taking us. All the multiple policies are really geared towards that. And as you already see, the administration has banned 39 countries already, including, for example, Nigeria. So if you're from Nigeria and you have an immigrant petition for a family member, you're going to have some issues. You're going to have legal representation to help battle the system. Now, will the administration change? We hope so. But what happens in 3 years, we don't know yet. We have to deal with what is going on right now. So anyways, I hope everyone had a great holiday. I and our family, we took some time off and went to Japan as a family. Hopefully you guys had some time. We had a beautiful time, saw Mount Fuji, and ate a lot of great food. If you haven't been to Japan, by all means, make sure you visit. If you have, put in the comments where you have been and what you enjoyed most about your trip to Japan. Or if you are planning to go to Japan, when do you plan on going? Also, in the comment section, let us know where you are listening from. what state, what country. That gives us a good idea. We always love to hear from our listeners. And more importantly, we want your comments, okay? Um, and questions, because that's what we're here. There's a lot of challenges and problems going on. Um, and we want to make sure that we're here for you to take care of that. So we had a great holiday. We're ready for 2026 and the many challenges that it's going to bring us. And immigration is going to do that too for us this year. If you are in immigration or have anything to do with immigration, you need to pay attention. You need to listen. You need to be updated literally every 2 weeks. The law, the policies are changing quietly and quickly, and they're impacting everyone at each level. It doesn't matter the immigration case, from students to family members to employment. You have to pay attention. It will cost more, it will take more time, it will be more challenging, and there is no quick solution. Now, one of the things that I did want to touch on as we get started is where's my notes? And as I was preparing for today, there was one, and we can go to our first slide and bring that up because I thought it was really, really interesting. Um, and I think it kind of sums up where the US is going. And let me see. Hopefully, we got the right slide up there. Um, yeah, I guess this is a good one. This one where the Trump administration's policies on illegal and legal immigration would reduce, they are reducing, not would reduce, the projected number of workers in the United States by 6.3 million by 2028. 2028 is just 2 years away. So we're reducing workers, foreign workers in the US by 2028. Just to give you a story, I was meeting and talking with a potential client this week, and their family member wanted to study here at a US university, and they wanted to do work in a field that's in the medical field. And I was like, that's great. However, look at what's going to happen in 2 to 3 years. Is there going to be OPT available? Right now, the administration is looking to do away with OPT and STEM OPT. Will there be an H-1B available for them to work? Certain categories are professionals and certain ones are not. So, for example, nurses are no longer a professional position. They never were for H-1Bs overall unless you had a master's degree or a specialized area in nursing. But it's making it more difficult for international students to actually get a job after they're here. Now, on top of that, they're making it more problematic for students to even come to study at universities. There was, I think it was in the Forbes article that I was reading at the very end. I thought it was very striking. Let me see if I can find that information. Basically, it was really good, and I really wanted to share it with you guys. Essentially, what the person was mentioning in the Forbes article is, as we make it impossible for students to come study in the United States, and as we make it problematic for them to get work or to work after they study at the universities, we're literally reducing our university numbers and students by a large amount over the next several years. And that's going to have drastic impact on the US and our universities. Universities are going to close. And what I've always told other people is, if your concern is that there's a lot of foreign students here in STEM fields, maybe us US citizens need to force our children to just go into STEM fields. That's really what needs to happen in the US. No social science, none of that. Everyone needs to be in engineer science or be in the STEM fields. And we really, as a country, need to, if we're going to take this isolation policy where we're not going to rely on any outside help, we have to do that here in the US, and we have to create policies to, guide us towards that. Unfortunately, like many things that we're seeing over this year and probably throughout 2026, they're trying to attack a problem, but they're not creating a solution that's going to benefit us. So even if you're against immigration, let's say you don't want, foreign IT workers to take your job. What is the government doing to really help people get jobs? We have thousands and hundreds of thousands of people being laid off. Are these people being retooled in the STEM field in order to fulfill the needs for future positions? Is AI going to impact that? All of these things are things our government should be focused on of how to solve the problem instead of just saying, you know what, we're just going to isolate ourselves and essentially we're going to choke and starve our corporations and universities, which are just going to go outside the borders. Now, honestly speaking, with the price that we charge here in the United States, um, for college and universities, it's a huge incentive for Americans to go outside and study in other countries because, if it's 25,000 or more, depending on where you go here in the US, you can get your education a lot cheaper at universities outside. All right, let's dive into our topic today. And we're going to be talking about H-1Bs. We're going to be talking about H-1Bs this time and in our next one. So, the first thing that we want to do, you can bring that slide up and we can get started. So the current administration is looking to change the H-1B process. We can go to the next slide. All right, there we go. So the H-1B, as you may know, there's 65,000 regular H-1Bs and 20,000 advanced degrees. That's not a lot. I think when we look at the immigration population and the impact on the US economy, it's less than 1%. It's very minuscule. A lot of what we hear, the concerns we have, is really overblown. The US economy has larger problems it needs to deal with. However, H-1Bs are key because it's really the only category for new graduates, for undergrads to come into the United States, and it's one of the best vehicles for US employers, especially in medicine, tech, um, business, to have foreign workers come to the United States. So up until now, the H-1B each year, with the 85,000 total H-1Bs visas issued each fiscal year, the fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th the following year. So each year there's 85,000. Up until now, we've always had more individuals, more than 85,000 who want the visa than there are visas available. Therefore, there was always a lottery. So what the government created was a registration process where everyone who wanted an H-1B visa would go into an H-1B lottery in March. And from that, the government would randomly, keyword randomly, select, about, well, they always selected more than 85,000 because there's a percentage of denials that they factor in. So they would select those and then they would allow people to file H-1Bs between April 1st and June 30th. Now, that process has been in place for several years. It's been working. It's not the best. It favors employers, meaning they don't have to spend a lot of money upfront preparing an H-1B petition and packet that's not going to be selected. So it has worked. The downside is H-1Bs really follows what the economy is. There's a lot of talk about abuse and restriction. However, it's not that. The problems we have with H-1B are so minuscule. If we approach this with every policy or everything we had, we would have to shut down everything the government does because there's problems with IRS, with healthcare, Medicaid. Just because there's a few bad actors doesn't mean that the whole vehicle should be shut down or done away with. However, that's the direction we're going. Remember, Steve Miller within the administration doesn't want any foreign workers here. And each of these policies pushes us closer towards that. So keep that in mind as we go through 2026 and 2027. So basically, under the current system, random. But the new system, proposed system, is going to be what they call a weighted selection process. Um, Basically, what that means, in simple terms, those people who pay the most will get the H-1B. Now, the way that it's presented, of course, it's going to be presented, it's marketed in a fair way. However, basically, the government is saying the most highly skilled and highest paid. So what that means is those who already have H-1Bs or have 5, 10, 15 years of experience with an H-1B, those are the individuals who are going to be paid 150, 200,000, 250, whatever it may be. Those people are going to be selected. Who does that not include? That does not include the majority of everybody else. We're talking small businesses, medium-sized corporations, or as you see in some of the lawsuits, which we'll touch base on, nonprofits and universities. All of these employers or actors are going to be impacted by the changes, which means they're not going to be able to get H-1Bs, especially if they're counted against the cap. Now, some universities, they're not going to be impacted because they're exempted. However, there's other things the administration is doing regarding H-1B wages, which we'll talk in the future. They're trying to spike up the wages like they did last time to make it unattractive for U.S. employers to even consider foreign nationals. So if you are a foreign national right now, you need to be paying attention. If you're an H-1B, just because you have an H-1B now, doesn't mean you're in the clear. For all those Indian nationals out there that have been waiting 5, 10, 15 years, you need to be paying attention. Get in a position so that you are ready in case this current administration throws us a curveball and bumps up your prevailing wage to an amount that no one in their right mind would ever pay. Now, another thing that this does for the new weighted system, when we talk about higher skills, I'm just going to put higher skills out. All they really care about is money. And as you kind of watch our administration, it's all about money, okay? Not people. So really, it's just about who's going to pay the most. Now, the highest wages, generally speaking, are going to be seen in California and New York. You'll get some in the Midwest with Chicago and a few other places, but the highest salaries, think Silicon Valley and New York City area and the bureaus around there. So those are going to be the highest salaries. So those employers who are paying level 4, if you're not familiar with the wage levels with the Department of Labor sets 4 different wage levels. And those 4 different wage levels kind of spirals up based off of the experience. Okay, so entry level, graduated from college, you're going to be in level 1, maybe college in 1 year. College in 2 or 3 years, you're going to be level 2, a little bit more experience, let's say 5 to 10, level 3, and then beyond that, level 4. Now, with the level 4, let's say software developer or computer system analyst or an accountant, you're in California, in LA or whatnot, you're looking at well over 200,000 or more. A lot of small employers, even within California, may not be paying that amount. And in fact, the market may not even demand that. The wages that the Department of Labor puts out is not really realistic, especially when we talk about what real employers are paying, both small. Now, the large employers, yeah, if you're only focused on, the top 100 companies or top even 1,000 companies, yeah, they're going to be paying a higher salary, but that's not the majority of companies and people who apply for H-1Bs. They do apply for a lot, however, it's not everyone. So those basically, you are not giving small, medium companies the opportunity to hire foreign workers. And not every foreign worker is going to be qualified or have an opportunity at a large corporation. So let me kind of go back, make sure we're covering everything. So we talked about the weighted selection process. My opinion, and what I'm telling people, it's all about the money. Level 4, how high do you want to pay? It increases your chances of being selected. I think now if you do level 4, your chances of being selected are about 60%. Now, before we even get there, under the current system, everyone has about a 30% chance of getting selected. Okay, 1/3 chance. But under this new system, if you're level 4, your odds go up to 60. If you're level 3, I think it's better than 30%. It's probably like 40, maybe 50. But level 1 and level 2, your odds are a lot lower. So it all depends on the economy and how many H-1Bs the larger companies file. We don't know that until we actually get into the system. Now, the government is encouraging, and we also are encouraging everyone to go into the H-1B lottery coming up in March. Participate. There's not a high bar to get in. However, if you don't play, you'll never know. Also, there are 2 lawsuits attacking some policies under the H-1B. Nothing has stopped the process or this new policy going into place, which goes into place on February 27th, I believe. Um, which is kind of late considering that we start the H-1B lottery process or selection process in the month of March. But either way, um, you have to make sure you participate. You need to participate. There's no other options out there. We'll talk about options in a couple of weeks when we talk about alternatives to H-1B, but those alternatives are right now not really feasible for many people. Okay? So the new policy based off of income, the administration makes the excuse that this is supposed to be aligned with Congress's intent and everything. It's just a lot of fluff. At the end of the day, how much are you going to pay your employees increases your odds. The more money you pay, the more chances you have. All right, so let's see, going to protecting workers. Is this really protecting workers? The number of workers is, the impact of this is under 1%. So that means US workers have 99% chance of getting whatever the job is. And you'll find because of the current administration, a lot of employers are even shying away from H-1Bs. The other day, I had a call from an engineer in the Midwest, and she was on OPT. The company decided she was just on OPT, and they decided not even to do the OPT and get rid of her because of what the administration was saying. So there's a perfectly foreign educated engineer in the Midwest that can't get a job just because of the policies going into place. So I think these are missed opportunities. The problem is the U.S. is not forcing its individuals that to be engineers. Who's going to replace that foreign national? Okay, it'd be nice, but everyone being let go at Amazon and FedEx are not mechanical engineers or scientists. That takes another 4 years. And then again, who's going to pay for the universities and the education when it's really expensive in the US? And remember, as they reduce the number of students, that cost of education is going to go up. We have one that's already graduated from college, but we still have one that's in the midst, 2 more years. But it's expensive. It really, really is expensive to go to college. So you really have to weigh whether it's in your best interest, but more importantly, for our nation as a whole, what are we doing to solve the lack of STEM applicants or candidates we have who are U.S. citizens to fulfill this role? And what this means is employers are just going to go outside the border. Canada, Mexico, Asia, Europe. Why not? Nowadays, there's many remote positions, things that could be done remotely, and those that must be done in the US. Well, I mean, you'll try to find some, but there's going to be a lack of opportunity. One other story there was a friend of mine, that is a graphic designer, has been looking for jobs in the Midwest forever, over 2 years, and has not been able to find a job. A lot of these jobs are really, really challenging to fill. And so you really have to pick the degree and what you're studying in college to make sure that when you come out, you're going to have a job. But as far as H-1Bs, they're restricting it, they're limiting it. Does it protect U.S. workers? I don't think so. I don't see how this is helping the majority of workers. There's always a one or two case where the foreign national may be more qualified, and then there may be one or two actors that say, instead of paying the U.S. citizen 100,000, they want to pay the foreign national 80,000. It's not illegal, it's just a difference. Okay. The problem is one of the things I've noted after practicing for over 20 years, it might be 25 now, employers are paying these U.S. employers who are hiring H-1B workers. They're paying a lot of money, most of them well above 100,000. And the thing about it, all of ours are, level 3, level 4. They don't care because, the work they're doing requires them to pay that, and they'd be glad to pay 100,000 or more. Now, again, there's always bad actors. You can find that in the medical field, in IRS, taxes, whatever, accounting, or stock market, but it doesn't mean that the system should be shut down. It just means that the administration needs to police and actually enforce, there's already tools there, to enforce that and make sure it's done well. Okay? Now, just for our argument's sake, we're going to go to the weighted selection process just for our amusement. So at this stage, you can see, they're looking at higher paid positions. That means entry-level students, you're out. You just spent 100, 200,000 on your undergrad education, you're out. Do you then go to master's? You could study for your master's degree. Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day, you need to find a U.S. employer willing to pay level 3 or level 4 wages. Let's see. They do state you can file at all wage levels. It sounds good, but if you're not going to get selected, employers are going to file at the higher wage levels. It's all driven by economics. If there is a, business proposition where the employer can make money, they're going to do it. No one's going to spend all this money. Not to mention the filing fees. Besides, we won't talk about the $100,000 filing fee that's under litigation right now, but just the main filing fees, it's about $7,000 to $10,000 just in filing fees alone for the employer to petition for them. And then you can go back one slide. Yeah. One more. And then wage setting practices and strategies, we talked about that. It's very simple. You can get into the legality of things, and one of the other things that is very important is we don't have the transparency, of how this is going to be applied. Who's making the decision of this? Is it computer generated? It's not clear. Administration, as we know, has not been transparent about this area of immigration and many others. So there's no accountability, unfortunately. So going on to the next one. I know everyone's busy today. This is a great topic. I love talking about this. Compliance, honestly speaking, the people, when they're doing the job, they're going to hire people who are qualified. They're going to get the job done. People are not going to bring people on who don't qualify and are not making the company money. I'm not going to hire someone if they're not making me money. Why? We don't have money just to give away. Especially, you can look at pay stubs and tax returns to make verifications that people are not abusing the system. There's easy ways to kind of monitor or make sure that there are no abusers in the systems. But right now, up until 2025, employers are out there to make money. And, if they're not, they're going to lay them off. That's what we're seeing with, various large corporations reducing the number of their staff. All right. Moving on to that $100,000 visa fee. I know everyone is concerned about that. Right now, it is focused on individuals who are getting visas and coming into the United States. We have some attorneys have seen RFEs requesting the 100,000. This is just another way to restrict or do away with the H-1B program. There are two lawsuits. One of the lawsuits was um, sort of, well, summary judgment was granted, which means the government won the first round. That lawsuit was appealed. We're waiting to see what they can do to show that the $100,000 policy that was instituted by the administration is illegal or improper. The other lawsuit, there's a second one there. That one is still pending. We don't have a decision on that. Unfortunately, right now, some people are looking to pay the 100,000. Think doctors, for example, or very high-end professionals where the company or business they're going to make, $5 million off of that employee. So if you have a doctor, you're paying them 200,000, 300, 400, 500,000. Yeah, you'll eat the cost for 100,000 because you know you're going to make it up at the end. If you have, you know, Jane Smith, who just graduated from undergrad and is in counseling or psychology and wants to work at a counseling position, they're out of luck, especially if they're going to work for nonprofits. Nonprofits are also impacted because they're not exempted unless they're associated with the high institution of higher education, even though they're nonprofit. So nonprofits, if they want good talent, this is going to impact you as well. So with that 100,000, let me see, make sure we stay on course. Yeah, you just got to plan. There's a couple strategies. Feel free to reach out to us. We can help guide you. Maybe there's ways to get around that 100,000 so that you're not paying it and still get into H-1B. It's very convoluted. And as I mentioned, in 2 weeks when we have our next live stream, we'll talk about alternatives to H-1Bs altogether, which unfortunately is dying a slow death right now. Okay, let's see. Let's go to our next slide. The impact on foreign nationals and global talent. It's just self-explanatory. People are going to go elsewhere. If you make it impossible for people to study, make it impossible for people to work here in the United States after they have studied, they're just not going to come. We're going to lose that talent out. And the U.S. employers are going to go somewhere else. Whether it's Europe, Canada, or anywhere else, they're going to find the talent. They're going to have the people. It just won't be here in the United States. Unfortunately, we may not see that for a year or two, and then by that time, it's too late. Again, immigration is not the enemy. It's been made out to be something very bad. The administration utilizes it as something very negative, but it really isn't. It really helps our U.S. economy. And unfortunately, I think the U.S. economy is going to realize that in the near future. The good thing about it, the U.S. economy is large enough so we don't see immediate impacts that are severe. However, long term, I think we're going to see that in many industries as we move forward. Let's see. Moving on, we're talking about H-1B cap fiscal year 2027. Reach out to your immigration attorney, work with us to make sure you're ready, evaluate your compensation, what you're going to pay, and how you're going to proceed. Come up with backup plans. We'll be talking with employers about alternatives to H-1Bs, which is critical right now, and which I think you need to put in place now. Even the current existing H-1B holders, I know we're talking about cap cases, but even those who have H-1Bs, you need a backup plan. You waited 10 years, your priority date is going to be valid for another 10, 15. You need to be prepared for anything this administration throws at you. We'll talk about alternatives in 2 weeks. And next, what does the H-1B landscape look like? As I mentioned, it's dying a slow death. All of the policies that are being implemented to limit, restrict, and do away with the H-1B program. There is no alternative to the H-1B program at all. There's n there's no alternative. So, in the future, if you want foreign talent, whether those are, certain doctors or lawyers, accountants, scientists, researchers, the list goes on and on, counselors. I mean, immigration touches every industry. If you're looking at these positions, you're going to have to find it somewhere else or look at other visa categories, which we'll talk about. All right. Do we have any questions? I don't see any questions. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat. We really, as I mentioned earlier at the top of when we were started our discussion today, let us know where you're listening to us from. We love to hear from you. We want to see where you're at. Also, if you have questions, whether during this live stream or after, go ahead and type that in the chat so that we can reach out to you. We do have our contact information on the screen. You can reach out to us anytime. Our toll-free number is 888-401-1016. Again, 888-401-1016. H-1Bs are a challenge, everybody. You have to take this seriously. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to just headlines. Look at what the administration is doing. Think about how this is impacting universities, international students, and your business. Get in touch with an immigration attorney immediately so that we can help you plan and guide you through 2026. It's going to be a long, hard 2026 on the immigration side of things, especially the employment-based side, when you want to keep key employees in place and those who are already here. One of the key things to remember for H-1Bs, not only are the fees going up with the 100,000, but also wages are possibly going up in July. So let's watch that. We'll continue to talk about this as it moves forward. Give us a call. We're busy. However, we do want to help as many people as possible. If you're looking for sound, good immigration guidance, feel free to reach out to us here at Ray Law International. We would love to speak with you and to help you, whether it's your business or family. It's so key. All too often, we had another consultation where the client did all their research on Google and read everything. They were trying to contact government agencies, but that's not the reality. And so you don't spin your wheels going through social media. Even when you do Google searches, I mean, the information that pulls up, half the time it's incorrect because it's just pulling from a lot of various old and new information in the internet. So speak with an expert, speak with someone who's dealing with this on a daily basis and is really going to look out for your interests. That's why you're going to pay for an immigration attorney, to make sure that you're taking care of you and your family and your business are taken care of. All right, everyone. I want to thank you for your time. This has been very interesting. There's a lot going on, a lot to talk about. Stay on top of things, ask questions, and make sure that you protect both your business and your family. Once again, Anthony Ray from Ray Law International here on the Ray Law International channel. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next live stream. Take care. Bye now.